Bat music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who just rhyme. It's Bat
Minute! Greetings, citizens of Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the show that delivers top-quality content to you squealing, wretched pinhead puppets 3 days a week. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
I am the other host, Niall McGowan, already making a mental note to edit out that little bit of John saying wretched pinhead puppets, and then use it against him somehow down the line.
Yeah, that's going to be used against me in court at some point, I imagine.
You heard what this
yes.
John Parker guy said about somebody? Just play that 3-second clip.
Oh my God. But yes, we are joined by two very, very special guests who I'm sure you have heard before.
That was a real Force Awakens, like, do I talk first or you talk first? Like, what happens here?
Go ahead, Sean.
You're just testing us all now, Sean, aren't you?
Guess what? I got a fever, and the only prescription is more Batman.
Hey.
I'm Sean German.
Hey.
Thanks for having me, boy.
And I'm friend of the show, Tabitha Carlisle.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back, Sean, and welcome for the first time, Tabitha.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
This is minute 85 of Batman Returns. The minute starts by careening with wild abandon, and it ends with the whole place a-rockin'. Oh, yeah.
This is one of those ones, like, I think we had the same kind of trouble like during the Batmobile scenes in the last movie, where it's like, yeah, it's just loads of driving around and just crazy crashing and, action. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's great to watch, but like,
Yes.
minute by minute, it's like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to bring up notes about, but I mean, we'll break it down here at the start. We're back here with Batman losing control of his vehicle as the Penguin assumes command, and he's swerving this damn thing all over the place.
And then, of course, he sticks in some car tunes to get himself through this.
Yeah.
You can't hear it because the Penguin's talking so loud, but you just hear underneath everything. It's just, every day is like Sunday. I was like, this is really calming me down.
If this was music, what do you think it would be? Would he be listening to Prince from the previous film? Would he be listening to Susie and the Banshees from this film?
Do you
or
think,
The Cure?
Do you think Batman has like a guilty pleasure now that he really likes Trusted by Prince? He's like, every time I play it, though, it just reminds me of that time the Joker was gassing the city. I'm like, it's a pretty good song, though.
I don't know. I think he's predicting the future. He's actually putting in the latest CD by Seal.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe he's just like, I've heard this new song, this Kiss from a Rose song by Seal, so great. If I'm gonna die now, I have to make sure I hear it at least once. So he's like, get it on quickly.
No, it's better than the song I had in my head this morning. Like, for some reason, I have Islands in the Stream by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers in my head. So maybe he likes a little country.
I could picture that. I think it would be something unexpected. We all assume it's something a bit goth. I don't know. I think there's a different side to him, maybe, that we're going to see through his musical taste.
It's Leslie Gore or something like that. Yeah.
I don't drive, so I am confused by something here. As a non-driver, maybe I'm stupid.
No.
Right, Batman here, when you look at his dashboard, the RPM is all over the place, right? That's not right, is it? That's not how they work. It's going up and down and up and down.
No, I was just going to say, because the Penguin has taken over it, maybe just everything in the car isn't working the way it's supposed to, so...
Yeah, but that's not digital. It doesn't work like that, does it?
It could be maybe because he's taken over, it's like completely disconnected everything, so like the needle's just going up and down through like the volatile movements of the car because he's just steering it so violently or something.
Okay, I'll accept that.
That is a really high engine revving. Like, you can go really fast without going at like 6,000 or 7,000 RPMs.
See, that was another question I had. Is that how that works? Because again, I don't have a clue. I don't know. I don't
No,
understand
then your
cars.
car isn't shifting if you're going that. If your RPMs are running that high, your car isn't shifting. And I think the Batmobile can run better than that. So
You'd hope so.
yeah.
It's essentially a goddamn rocket car. It looks very high tech. Let's be honest. I mean, he's got a CD player in the car in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, Batman's magic with CDs as well, as we see like in the next week or the week after that.
Oh, yeah, in a couple minutes. You also noticed below the RPMs, which, as you say, are going all over the place, his oil pressure is dangerously low. The needle's all the way to the left, where it should be probably closer to the center. He's got to have that checked out.
Do you think that's part of the evil plan by the Penguin and his gang as well? They've changed. They've got rid of all the oil.
Yeah, that engine's going to wear out much quicker than it ought because we've taken out the oil.
What a devious scheme!
We've changed
In
all.
a few months, he won't be able to
We've
drive.
changed all the station presets on the radio.
That's why he's been into CDs. Like, oh crap, I need to put on something.
Yeah, which I noticed. Like, this is a blank CD. Like, do you think does Batman get his music off of Napster?
Oh, I mean, I guess he's already doing things above the law. Maybe he's like, I'm paying for this. Like,
He invented Napster.
then he gave credit to Justin Timberlake from that movie where he played the guy who started Napster.
All right. So in my headcanon is now Justin Timberlake is Bruce Wayne.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, the guy can sing, dance, act, and he's so good looking. These must be some kind of secret identity there.
Well, to me as
man,
well, the most important things with the Batman are singing and dancing.
See, I can imagine,
Yes.
like, in the early 2000s, there may well have been, like, talks of having Justin Timberlake be Robin in something. Like, if they were developing that George Miller Justice League, I can imagine people being like, that Timberlake kid, he's coming up. Like, he'd be a good Robin, right? Look, he's all chipper and like, oh, he's got a cheekiness about him and stuff. And like, and the news would have leaked out because people like Justin Timberlake now, but back then, that news had leaked would have been like, no, for the love of God, because every bit of news that ever leaked about that movie at the time it was all like Jude Law is playing Superman. And you're like, what? Like Ashton Kutcher or Josh Hartnett are in talks for Batman. You're like, why are you doing this to me?
No.
That was serious. I think Josh Hartnett, he might have actually been up for Superman, and it might have been the other way around. I think it might have been Jude Law as Batman and Josh Hartnett.
Not Ashton Kutcher, though.
Ashton Kutcher's name did pop up a couple. I remember seeing, but those were all like back in the days of like teletext news reports where they're just like, because before you got the proper like everything happening within seconds on the internet, and then something that's pretty much definitively fact or something, or not definitively fact, but in legitimate planning stages. Whereas this was like some guy in an office said Ashton Kutcher, and somehow that got out to the press, and they're like, roll with it.
I could see Ashton Kutcher as like an Aquaman. That might work. Yeah.
Ooh.
But so speaking of Robin, George Clooney and Justin Timberlake as our dynamic duo.
I could see that maybe working. Not working because the whole movie needs changing. But, it would be fine.
It would be attractive at the least.
Are you going on record as 2 years early, Sean, as saying that the main problem with the Batman and Robin was Chris O'Donnell this whole time?
Hey, and you said he'd be attractive at least, but every girl I knew like Chris O'Donnell, and a lot of men.
That
Okay,
is
yes.
true.
Yeah.
I will vouch for that. Every girl liked Chris O'Donnell at that time.
It was a very specific look, wasn't it, of the time?
You have the time.
If someone looked like that now, I don't think it would go down as well.
So, the thing is, it's like, I should save all O'Donnell talks. We got 2 full movies of that guy coming up.
Yeah. Good God Almighty.
So I'm just amazed here that the Batmobile is going as straight as it is through all of those cars, with the Penguin bouncing all over the place as he's driving.
That's an excellent point. That doesn't make a lick of sense. Like the Batmobile should be swerving around like the Penguin is.
Right.
All I can come up with is it's that, that old-fashioned sort of thing where you'd see in a movie someone driving a car but they'd be moving the steering wheel left and right and left and right. But in the background, the projected image was just stationary.
Yeah, very true.
I have to say, of him going through these cars, though, because this is like the Batmobile's causing carnage. And I'm kind of having flashes to like the Chris Nolan trilogy, where it's like, I'm pretty sure that version of Batman did this kind of stuff when he was in control of the Batmobile. He was so freaking negligent.
That is exactly what I thought when I first watched this minute. It reminded me of the Christopher Nolan Batman. I was like, basically, it feels like the same scene almost when he's coming through and hitting things before he goes driving on rooftops. But
that was always the thing that really bugs me in The Dark Knight and the sequence with the Batpod, which we'll be talking about quite a bit in a couple episodes time. But there's a bit where like I think he blows. There's two kids kind of like doing like pew 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 in the backseat of a car, and then all of a sudden the car near them blows up because Batman's blasted it out of the way. So that's some poor guy's actual car he's just destroyed. Those two kids, they could have been in that car. Did he check that the car was empty? He was like, they'd come out and was like, yeah, Batman killed two children by blowing up this car. That car could even if they weren't in that particular car he blew up, the car he did blow up could have flown into theirs. It's like, insanely negligent.
As of this week that we're recording this show, though, Niall, I mean, Prince Philip crashed his car into a car with children, and that bit didn't even get reported for ages because who cares about some kids? That was the general attitude.
Yeah, that news still hasn't reached me that there were kids. I heard about the accident because it was in a meme. Of course, I get all my news from memes, but
usually from me. But
what I took away from the whole article that I saw was that he was 97 years old.
Yes.
I think I was just like, okay, my takeaway from this is that he's 97 years old. Oh my goodness.
A 97-year-old as well should probably, I don't want to be mean, probably should not be driving.
Probably not.
Totally. Although the one thing they don't report in that yet to kind of really press on in stories about Prince Philip's crash is that much like Batman in The Dark Knight, he crashed the car and then he actually had like a little hidden thing like the Batpod, and that Batman comes out and so this little motorbike thing zooms off. Prince Philip actually erupted from the car wreckage on an old penny wheel bike and just kept going on down the road.
Oh my god, yes. I need to see this. Someone mock it up in like a little cartoon or something. I tell you what though, I was baffled at this point as well, right? Because surely Batman at some point in designing this car has thought about this may be happening at some point. Or even just like the car kind of glitches and loses control. Why are there no fail-safes? Come on, there needs to be something in place to stop the thing.
Maybe they clip the fail-safes or something.
That's the only explanation, surely.
Yeah.
There's like he does flip a switch soon in a couple of minutes, but that does a very different thing. There should be something to just like disable it. This is a dangerous piece of equipment now.
Yeah, because as he's coming down the road, and I didn't notice it when I was first watching it through. I think I just thought that cars were parked to the road. I didn't even think about people being in them. But like around second 19. If you pause it, you could see all the shadows of people in the cars and heads sticking out the windows. And he's just coming down and just flipping them all over. Obviously not Batman's fault, but yeah.
He designed the car, so it kind of is.
It is. That's true. Unless he puts the blame on Alfred. How much design work does Alfred do?
Ooh, well, we've discovered throughout doing this, Alfred does pretty much everything for Bruce.
Right.
So he probably made this car by hand.
This could be Alfred's fault.
And I'm glad you mentioned thinking that these cars were just parked there, because I've always just thought that. I didn't even... You can barely see people in these cars. A couple of them have got out, fair enough, but there are people hanging out, but you can't really see them.
Right.
I think we never get at the end as well, like, or in the aftermath of this, like anyone saying like, yeah, there's like 50 people killed or something. We just sort of think it's like, oh, it looks like he was, because they make such a big deal. And the minute coming up after this one, that he almost hits an old lady. But it's like he's probably killed about like 5 old ladies just through the the stuff that we kind of saw off the side of the screen before and stuff. So
yeah. Well, the street is so small and the cars are so crowded that probably most people would live because their cars are just like flipping up against buildings and stuff. So maybe, I mean, they're not rolling. It's not a fast flip. They might just be injured.
As long as it's just broken bones, we can live with it. It's fine.
It's a really crowded street.
Bones heal, but as long as they're wearing their seatbelt,
Exactly.
if they need the safety belt is why that's important. Yeah.
I don't know. Some of those people were hanging out the window trying to figure out what was going on.
Oh,
I don't know
this
that everybody
baffles
is.
me because I wasn't aware till recently. Maybe it's changed in the last few years or something, but I found out, like, over there, you guys, some people aren't into seatbelts. Like, do you have to wear them? Because here you've got to wear it. Like, it's the law. You can't not have your seatbelt on.
Yeah, you have to wear your seatbelt if you're in the front seat.
Okay.
If you're in the front seats, and if you're in the back seat, I think if you're younger than 16, you have to wear a seatbelt.
Oh my God, seriously, that's crazy. See, that's the thing with us. Like, you're told very explicitly in the back, you've got to wear it because if you crash, you're gonna fly face first into the back of that chair, probably break your nose and kill yourself, but you'll also injure the person in front of you.
Right.
Oh.
I think they really push it, like, hey, everybody wear your seatbelt. But I think the law is that if you're over 16, you don't have to. But yeah, I don't know. I always make my whole family buckle up or whoever's in my car.
Oh, good.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. Nothing over here. It's very because there's proper like adverts, like usually quite controversial because they're so graphic and violent and stuff. Where they'll show you like, oh, this is what would happen if you didn't have your seatbelt on, and it'll usually be like cars flipping over and people you'll see them get mashed up and destroyed inside. It's like, and they'll air that just during daytime TV to be like, it's educational, it's showing you should be wearing your damn seatbelt.
I mean,
all the
I
time.
agree, you should 100%. But yeah, as I used to live in Pakistan. Cars there often don't have a seatbelt, so I have also been in that situation where you're just holding on for dear life through Pakistani traffic, which is what you're imagining 100 times worse than that, though.
Yeah. I had another question about Second 19, coincidentally enough. It seemed because we can see, as we noted, we see some silhouettes. They're people in at least some of these cars. Does everyone in Gotham wear a hat while they drive?
Oh yeah. This is the aesthetic of Gotham.
I think that's you have your driving cap. That's the whole that's how Bruce Wayne made his money. He's like just promoting and sustaining the driving cap industry.
That's where we're going wrong. We need official Bat-Minute driving.
Oh yes.
There you go.
I do know a guy who has driving gloves. Like he drives a terrible, crappy little rundown car, but he's so kind of cocky about it. He's like, here's my driving gloves. These nice little leather gloves and stuff.
I mean, if it's a Rolls Royce, I mean, okay, yeah, that goes with the look. But not like
I used to do that when I was a kid with my bicycle. Like they were cool motorcycle gloves, but as a car.
That's cool. I'm jealous. I would have liked that. When I was a kid, everybody just started getting into BMXs. Mm-hmm. They were cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you realize when you're a bit older, a BMX is not cool. It's awful unless you're using it for a very specific thing.
Right.
Unless you're doing tricks and things like that on it, which you think you are as a kid, but you're not.
Right.
You're just going over a little wooden ramp you've made.
I always think it's funny when I see an adult riding like a BMX down the road or through some place because it just looks like they're riding a little kid's bike. You know, like their knees are hitting their chin, and I'm just like, it's just so crazy.
That is.
You can tell that's the star of BMX Bandits, Nicole Kidman, when she shows up in the next damn movie.
Oh my God, everything's connected.
I think I might end up being like one of our hiatus episodes after that season. We'll be like, oh, BMX Bandits with Nicole Kidman. Although by the end of like Batman Forever, we're like, Nicole Kidman was in that movie? Really? Where? What did she do?
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten, and I'm already thinking about doing, when we're going to do that film. And it already has escaped my brain. But as the Batmobile's plowing into these cars here and they're flipping and stuff, it goes past, there's a shot past sort of like an array of magazines and posters, which I tried to make a lot of them out, and I couldn't make most of them out. But there is one there that says The Immortalist.
Ooh.
And I was like, what's The Immortalist? Because the only thing I could find is the only use of that word I've ever heard of, which is the Immortalist Society, who are they publish journals and stuff supporting the Cryonics Institute. So they publish a magazine like quarterly or something. I think that might be their publication, because look at the weird picture as well. It's like second 29.
Yeah,
no,
29, 30. Well, it's like
29 onwards.
Is it a like a skull or it's like a face or a head with, but looks like there's no skin.
Yeah.
It could be reporting on the recent cryogenic accident of Max Schreck's friend and future Batman villain Victor Freeze.
That's what I was thinking. Yes. Everything's connected again. Now, again, if this was a modern movie, that is what that would be. It would be a nod to what's coming in a sequel.
It'd be great though. Then it actually it was such a deft tie-in that even Joel Schumacher put in Batman and Robin when like Clooney Batman is investigating Mr. Freeze. He's reading this copy of The Immortalist. Like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Well, I did also then look at how much it is to cryonically preserve your body. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of just reading about.
Oh, you got to plan for the future, John. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, you do, because there was a girl a few years ago. I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, I'm sure. Kim Suozi. She was 23, a neuroscience student, and she had herself frozen by crowdfunding it.
Ooh.
Yeah, because she really wanted it to be done, but she couldn't afford it. So she put it up on a crowdfunding site, and organizations who are advocating for this kind of thing kind of chipped in, most of them. It wasn't really like people like me and you.
But I'm assuming like she was like she must have been ill. This isn't like Eric.
Yeah.
This isn't like Eric Hartman. Like, I can't be bothered waiting an extra week for the Nintendo Wii to come out, so I'm going to freeze myself until it does.
We've all been there, but no.
Well, I thought she was just unpopular, and like all her friends were like, "Yes, please, freeze."
I'll go in the future where I'll be super popular.
Now, this article though did kind of confuse me with the prices. So I'm going to try and read it through and see if it makes sense. It says a standard. The company's called Alcor. Can I just point out the biggest one? Who? Well, there's Alcor and the Cryonics Institute. They're kind of the same prices. A standard Alcor suspension costs $70,000.
Wow.
But only if the terminal member relocates to Phoenix. Otherwise, it's $80,000. But then it says a whole body preservation is $200,000. So I'm assuming the other one is just for the head, because you can just have your head frozen.
Is that the Futurama package? You're just a head and a jump? I'm very confused by the Phoenix, because Phoenix is very hot, isn't it? I would think if you're going to freeze people, it should be... Well, I know there's like mountains in Arizona, but it should be like Nepal. Come to Nepal and we'll stick you on the top of a glacier and you'll freeze.
Or at the
there.
very least, like going to Canada.
Yeah.
Come on.
Or northern Michigan. Come on.
Phoenix is supposed to be so hot, though, because I've seen 2 individual jokes in 2 different shows about how insanely hot Phoenix is. Because Michael Bluth moves to Phoenix. Because he keeps talking about, I'm moving to Phoenix. And then the episode he finally does, he walks out the door, and he's just like, whoa, oh my God, that's hot. And he just walks straight back into the airport. And then I think there's an episode of King of the Hill where like Peggy and Bobby go to Phoenix, and they just get out of the car, and they're like, what? Why? Who could live in this nightmare? This is horrible.
And they're coming from Texas. So.
Yeah. So like, maybe that's why like they had it there. Like, oh, we were trying to figure out how to cool down the entire area. And then we couldn't do that, but we found out all about this cryogenic stuff. So now the lab is here.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder why it's there. That's crazy. I didn't even consider that fact. And I don't know a lot about the geography of America, but that is one thing I know.
Yeah.
That place is warm.
Well, maybe I think it's also very sunny. So maybe this is like solar powered freezers. And that way, that's like their backup. If the grid goes down, you'll still have the sun to keep things running. So the heads won't thaw out, maybe.
That makes sense.
It's this girl who did it, though. Is she did she have it done while she was alive, or she was like, when I die, I want it to be cryogenically?
No, legally they're not allowed to do it. Even if you're dying while you're alive, they have to wait until you're dead and then basically do it as quick as possible. Like get pump the chemicals into you to preserve parts of you and stuff. But it's one of those. Like I think a couple of times they have been in trouble for sort of helping someone die. And it's gone to court and things like that. But they defended themselves successfully in court. So allegedly. I'm going to say.
I think.
Don't know.
I just have the mental image of like, oh, don't worry, we'll thaw you out as soon as we find the cure for 17 stab wounds in the back. Like, how are we getting on, guys? We're up to 14.
That's basically what from what I was reading as well, they kind of have to regenerate certain parts of you. So they're hoping this technology will exist. Which I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the future. But they're going to have to regenerate parts of the brain because they'll degrade even when frozen, apparently, which seems
though,
crazy.
if you're dead anyway, what have you got to lose?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Though I think you may be onto something with the Mr. Freeze angle, because underneath the Immortalist is a magazine called Health. And it has a very, very dark, shadowy picture on the cover. I can't quite make out, but it may be a frozen head.
Oh, that's what it is. We know what they were planning all along here. It was the long con.
The long con's like, we're eventually going to give you one of the worst movies ever made. So
and you'll still go and see it.
Yeah, so we're going to give you 3 pretty good ones. But this was the plan from the get-go.
It worked.
Yeah.
I mean, people went to see it. People bought it. I did. But enough about frozen corpses and brains. And things. I wanted this. This sounds really horrible and dark. I wanted this Batmobile to hit people, right? Because I think that would have been an interesting angle on the story. Imagine if Batman did actually hit these people and they were injured and maybe even died. Or do you think that's too deep? Would that be better left to Nolan?
I mean, I think when he first took off, he kind of hit some people. So
sort of, though. I want to see him just run people down.
We just want to see like proper Die Hard with a Vengeance game where he's just like the blood's just all over this friggin' windscreen the whole time.
Yeah, because imagine his state of mind. Like, I know this Batman does kill people, but they are villains that he kills. So that would really mess with Batman.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Because again, the aftermath of this is just sort of like, just everything's, Batman does the thing with the Penguin audio, and it's like, everything's fine now. It's a bit of a weird. They don't see what the impact in the city was. You're just kind of left to assume that everything's just like, it's the Penguin. That's fine. Everyone's good with Batman again.
Right.
In the style of how this is filmed, if he was hitting people, it'd probably just look like a stiff dummy, like flying through the air, and not actual people.
I'm here for that. That sounds great.
I was just gonna say, I like how resilient the people of Gotham are, because later on we'll see them gathered as the Penguin gives a speech, and I would think, well, the last time we all got together, the Batmobile mowed us all down, like drove right down the middle of the road. I think they'd be shy of large gatherings, but not these Gothamites.
Well, maybe these Gotham people are kind of weird because, like, these might be people gathered to hear the Penguin, and like other people are still trapped in their car. And instead of helping these people get trapped out of their car, they're just so fickle, and now they're like, the Penguin, and they're not.
That sounds like
paying attention.
The general public to me.
Just like puppet pinheads. Maybe the Penguin's not so far off after all. I don't know. I want to talk about what's happening inside the van with his like grocery store Batmobile ride there.
It's amazing, isn't it? We were talking about that with Heidi, actually, weren't we? And it's so ridiculous, that thing. But I love it and I hate it kind of in equal measure.
I love it. Please tell me this was an actual ride back in the 90s. Like, they built an actual arcade Batman driving game that looked like that.
They definitely would have done.
Well, I mean, I might as well use that as a segue into some research I did do. A thing that kind of was brought to our attention like way back at the start of the movie, but it's like, oh, well, we'll have to wait for an appropriate time to stick this in here. But are you people familiar with the tale of Gotham City, the theme park that once almost was, but then wasn't?
I am not familiar with that.
I am also not familiar.
Oh,
Tell me more.
It's quite a tale. Because you might be aware that Universal Studios has quite a successful theme park down in Florida. And apparently in the early 90s when they opened, they got off to a shaky start, but eventually then they kind of they got up and running. And their whole thing is like they want to be as big, and they want to blast Disneyland out of the water essentially. So after initial success, they began development on something called Project X. Ooh. Which of course instantly made it sound cool to everybody else. Like, oh my god, we covered it in the last movie. If you put the letter X on anything, it's like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, as demonstrated by Vin Diesel in Triple X.
Yeah. Cool. But so Project X was a second destination, which was basically like Disneyland, but it contained 4 or 5 segments. One was a Dr. Seuss theme land. One was a comic strip land that featured Dudley Do-Right. Like, even here already, it's like, this is getting into very niche kind of stuff.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. They had a Popeye dock, which was a thing they're planning to do, and a Looney Tunes land. But then the biggest thing was in the center, which was obviously around this time, early 90s. Obviously had the astronomical success of the 1989 Batman movie, and they were already building up to, the release of Batman Returns. So to capitalize on this, one of the biggest things they had in the works was Gotham City, which was supposed to be a DC theme park. They did bring in other superheroes, but Batman majoritively. It was created under the guise of like what they call a blue sky period. So when they were pitching everything, and you can get loads of concept art for this, where they're like, it's kind of said to the developers, dream as big as you want. Like, don't think about budget or like expense or what the fact that it might be completely unfeasible and stuff. Just think of the biggest thing you can, and then we'll whittle it down and do something. We'll work something out along the way.
Oh, that's never backfired.
Yeah, but and so at the very intricate details of everything that was supposed to be potentially going into this park, all the different ideas they had. But at the beginning, they would have had massive statues of all of the Batman Rogues Gallery, and then a 5-story statue of Batman himself. So you would enter the park by going underneath Batman's crotch, basically, and you can get concept art of those statues and stuff too. On the other side, though, was because the other side of the thing, the other entrance was going to be Metropolis. So you'd enter through Batman, and you come out in the kind of, apparently it's going to be based on all the Anton Furst 89 sort of, all of this kind of stuff too, but like all the, the sort of, fascistic, oppressive, gloomy Gotham that you get in these movies. And then the other side would have been Metropolis, and it would have been like very 1930s Superman comic inspired and stuff. But within there, you would have had various different restaurants. At one point, you would have the Joker's Diner, which was a circus-themed restaurant where you got your food served in Jack-in-the-Boxes.
Oh my god, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
There was going to be Penguin's Pizza, which was a kind of dive bar place where all the waiters wore tuxedos and stuff.
Wait, hang on. I'm not on board with that.
Do all the pizzas
Penguin's
come with
Pizza.
Anchovies then?
Well, that's the thing. Is like, you think it's going to have to be fish-based pizza, wouldn't you, really?
Well, that's the only way it makes sense. Why isn't it like... I know why they're doing it, because the alliteration. But Penguin, it should be like ice cream or something.
Yeah.
Or fish and chips, at least. Something...
Oh, yeah. That would work. That would work. Yeah. Do you guys like fish and chips, though, over there? Like,
oh, yeah.
Do you see it as like a quaint English thing? Like, oh, that's fun.
I had fish and chips Thursday, just a couple days ago. Yeah, I love battered fish with chips. And
Oh, yeah. It's like the main way that I like to eat my fish. Like
okay.
Beer battered, deep fried. Oh, goodness. That's good stuff.
So we don't...
Destroying
Tartar
any of the
sauce.
health benefits.
yeah, exactly.
No,
Absolutely.
I do not eat fish to be healthy.
Well, the mercury, it's not healthy anyway because all the mercury. But, we don't
There
get
you
the
go.
peas that you get over there with the fish and
the
chips.
mushy
We don't get the
peas,
mushy
yeah.
peas, but
Not everyone has that, to be fair. There's a regional thing with what you have with your fish and chips, which everyone argues about constantly. There's different things. You can have mushy peas, you can have gravy, you can have curry sauce, you can just have ketchup.
no, it wouldn't do that.
There's all kinds of things. There's many an argument.
I don't know what kind of peas they would have featured in the Penguin's Pizza place, though. Like
Penguin's Pizza place.
Mushy pea pizza. Like, ugh.
Peas and pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think where I'm from, generally you just get a platter that had your deep fried fish, or however you want it cooked, and French fries, and tartar sauce, and a lemon.
Yeah,
Maybe a
also
coleslaw.
lemon wedge
Maybe a
with
coleslaw.
We have that as
which
well.
I never use the lemon for the fish, but
It tends to be in a fancier, nicer, like a restaurant. You get that. But most people get fish and chips like a takeaway from a piece of crap that looks like it's never been cleaned before.
Right.
That's generally where you get fish and chips. And it's just like you walk in and the grease is on the walls.
yeah.
That's where the flavor is. It's built up in the wall. It's very
Don't lick
it's
the
very
walls.
strange because in the States we don't call them chips. As Tabitha said, we call them French fries. Except with fish and chips. They don't call it fish and fries, which sounds better.
Yeah, so again,
the alliteration.
alliteration.
But, that one context, they call it fish and chips. But everywhere else in the States, chips are what you folks would call crisps.
Yeah. No, we do it as well, though. I mean, you understand the context it's in, so it makes sense.
Yes.
We do it with American things as well. Like, say in a burger place, the chips will be called fries.
Burger and fries is like our equivalent of fish and chips.
People call them chips in conversation, but on the menu it will say fries.
Like, but they had several other different restaurants too. They wanted to have. They were going to have Brainiac's Bookstore, which was be a bookstore based on 1930s spaceship design. And then one of the big things that they had the Batcave nightclub, which was going to be based on Disney's Videopolis, where people would come in, a bit at a time. You'd hang out in Bruce Wayne's library, and then at some point the lights would fade, the bat signal go up, and then you'd be invited onto these futuristic lifts, and then they would bring you down into the Batcave, which was just full of like dry ice and like lasers and friggin' huge video screens and stuff, and apparently there was going to be a working waterfall on it and stuff like that.
Batman for Batman's nightclub, I thought it was going to be more of like a Batman at the Go-Go type of situation. I didn't expect to go into his cave. That's pretty cool.
But and then you also had your gift shops and stuff, and then you had Catwoman's Lair, which was sold things for ladies, including high-end hats. Which I was like, that's a bit sexist. I want a high-end hat. What the hell?
Yeah.
Especially because this whole movie is her taking revenge on that attitude.
Yeah.
She even literally destroys, as we brought up, symbols of supposed womanhood. Like she trashes the jewelry in Shrek's store and things like this.
But then you get beyond that, you get the rides they had, and you would have the Batwing ride, which was supposed to just be a big roller coaster that would go through several different buildings in the park. So it was supposed to be like this huge thing that would go on for ages and ages and ages of stuff. And then one of the big ones they had that they put a lot of effort in was something called the Justice League Mind Warp, which was a VR simulation, which would include like smell-o-vision and stuff, where the Justice League would have to fight Brainiac. And apparently it was designed specifically to test the limits of human perception. And they specifically contacted neurologists to talk about it. And the neurologist got back to them going like, yeah, you're on the right track. This would really start messing with people's heads and stuff.
Test the limits of human perception at the Batman theme park. Okay.
What would you smell? Just like BO as they're fighting people and all active?
Smell justice. Justice.
The smell of justice.
They also had something lined up called the Joker's Fun House, which is a roller coaster based on his hideout in The Killing Joke, which is, if you've read The Killing Joke and you've seen the roller coaster he makes Jim Gordon go on, and the stuff that features in it is like, that is really messed up that you wanted to make a ride based on that. That's like a horrific thing to try to do. And then they had another thing called Terrible Traps and Fantastic Escapes, which was based on the Terminator 2 Battle Across Time thing. So it was supposed to be a big VR interactive thing. But the main attraction that they were lining up, but no, they had it because it was supposed to be next to a giant lagoon. So they had the Batman and Robin Action Adventure Spectacular, which was billed as the biggest show in the world. Nothing less will do.
Hang on, the biggest show in the world? That's a bold claim.
Well, the thing is, according to some people who worked on it, there was enough seating to potentially have 20,000 people there per night. So that's how big they were going to go. In the center of this lagoon, they had built, they were going to build a giant Axis chemicals. So it would begin with the Joker attacking that with an airship, and then somehow this would go into a huge car chase with the Batmobile. And then that was supposed to happen. Then Robin showed up, defeated the Joker, but he escapes. And then later on, the Penguin and Catwoman team up with the Joker, and they are threatening Gotham with a nuclear warhead, basically. So apparently then Batman and Robin would then separately go off to 2 different islands to fight the Penguin and Catwoman in their own individual little things. Meanwhile, in the center, the Axis Chemicals thing would be transformed into like this huge Joker hideout, which would just be really crazy looking, and it had the nuclear warhead in the center of it. Apparently then Batman would approach the Joker's hideout in a submarine. The hideout would raise up into the sky, and then the Batcopter would come in. And basically then the whole show ended with a big fight between all 3 villains and Batman and Robin, and then the bomb would be thrown into the lagoon, explode underwater, and then splash the entire crowd with just like how volatile the explosion was and stuff. So this was like the biggest thing. They were like, this is going to be like, you have never seen anything as huge as this thing. So there's other plans out as well, but those are kind of like the real, that sounds like that would cost a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a huge production to do that.
Yeah. The thing is, if you look into it, all the different like there's pages and pages of different notes and stuff about like all the various little things they were planning to do, and then why didn't this happen is very succinctly summed up. And obviously, because Universal would have to go to Warner Brothers because they don't own Batman, they don't have anything to do with DC, so they had to. They approached and Time Warner asked for a 10% stake in all merchandising and sales. 10% out of all that. Consider this thing, I'm assuming they're thinking this is going to be like $1 billion industry. Mm-hmm. So the after 10% is like, that's pretty good. Like that seemed to me like a decent deal. Then Universal counteroffered with 6%, and then Warner said no, 8%, and we're standing firm in that. And then Universal just said, oh fine, we don't need your characters, and walked away. And that was the thing. And then, luckily for them, the next year, a little movie called Jurassic Park came out that Universal owned the rights to, so they made a ride out of that instead.
I love the way they say we don't need your characters, but the only selling point, really, of that entire plan
is the character.
Is that it's Batman.
Yeah. I was like, no, we got Dudley Do-Right land. It's like, who gives a crap about Dudley Do-Right?
And as much as, obviously, we like Batman, and, comic books are a big thing now, would that really have been cost effective? It wouldn't have been selling 20,000 tickets a day.
No.
I imagine like you would get luck because people would know the characters well enough to be like, oh, I'd wander into it and stuff. It probably would have done quite well, but the maintenance of that would be. Yeah. And I imagine like maybe the first couple of years you would have got 20,000 people in those seats, but then after a while it's like you're going to be down to like 5,000, and then maybe some nights would be like a couple hundred people a night maybe. And then you have this big, depressing looking lagoon arena where nothing else is going on, and it's like the guy playing Batman's looking at this tiny crowd like, oh, I remember when this place used to be jam-packed. But
it'd be depressing if anything.
Kind of like the
because as they don't make money, everything starts like the quality starts getting really shoddy, and it could be really gross.
I want to see a fake like documentary about what would happen in that scenario. So now I want pretend that this thing opened and we're coming in with this fake documentary as it's on the wane.
On the Bruce Wayne?
The Bruce Wayne?
On the Bruce Wayne. And we get to see the downfall
So it would be good.
The thing is, like you still have to put on this like multi-million-dollar spectacular show as well just to film that. And like, oh, this is quite a costly documentary making. You have to build this whole friggin' ride and stuff.
Sorry, I'll crowdfund it once I've crowdfunded my cryogenic freezing.
Well, I just imagine so in the beginning, like the costumes would be really nice. It'd be like, almost as good or approaching the costuming in the movie. And then after a few years, it's like Barney dressed up as Krusty at the summer camp.
Yeah.
There is one last thing in this minute, actually, we didn't get to mention here. The Penguin. You see him for one last second, and then you get the whole Winnebago is rocking.
Yes.
Don't come knocking.
Don't come knocking. It does look very, how do I put it, suspect. And the people walking by think the same thing. They're looking at it like, what the hell's going on?
Well, what's going on? The roof is just covered with antennas and dishes and all sorts of things. It doesn't look. It looks like it's up to no good. It doesn't look like a friendly van.
Because even then, if you do think like, oh, everyone saw Oswald Cobblepot going in there, perhaps he has a lady in there, maybe. You would be like, what the hell is that guy doing? What are they doing to each other in there?
I don't know. Make him our mayor.
Well, you can get away with that these days in politics.
Well, yeah.
We'll also note, actually, I just noticed it there now. And the side of the Winnebago, beside the Oswald Cobblepot for mayor, is a very familiar-looking kind of W. Looks very much like the Wonder Woman logo over there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very true.
Is that a brand thing, or is that just like, no, that is a legitimate nod to Wonder Woman?
Maybe he stole her van.
Wouldn't it be invisible? Shouldn't that be the invisible van then?
It's the one time she that's why she goes for invisible stuff. It's like, oh, the damn penguin stole my Winnebago.
I think that's a W for Winnebago, but it works much better as the Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I'll be really sad though. Like Gal Gadot was out promoting Winnebagos now.
Oh, the tie-in. I love it.
This is like hurtle your way slowly towards justice with this Winnebago.
But I want to talk a little bit about the inside of the van. And before we get to the outside, like around second 54, 55, we get a great look. The detail. One thing you've got to hand it to the villains in general, but this Oswald character is attention to things like the spoke, the hubcap on his ride has the little bat symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I wonder, so was this like an actual, like a kiddie ride that was in front of a market that he stole and repurposed?
I think earlier, when it gets on at first, it does have a little thing like ye olde Batmobile or something like that. There was a little thing to put in like 10 cents. So
I think it was 50
presumably
cents,
he did. Yeah, 50 cents. So presumably, he did like swipe this from potentially. It would have been just funny to see the Red Triangle Gang stealing this from in front of a supermarket or something.
But then, and he's got
that makes.
I was gonna say he's got fans set up to like simulate, so the penguin feels like he's rushing down the road because these fans blowing wind in his face.
Oh,
I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking because he's just fat and he's gonna get all sweaty and gross. Like
he's so hot.
I didn't think about the simulation.
Also, I took that as being like, because he's the penguin. The character classically likes the cold, so it's like, no, he just has loads of fans on.
All right, that's.
But now I like your version way better, Sean. It's like, he's trying to go for the
fully immersive.
Because unfortunately, I think it is because it's the cold. Because he had those fans in his bedroom as well.
Oh, okay.
But
he likes to simulate his hair in the wind when he's in the bedroom too, John. That's his,
Well, don't we all?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I can do that.
Like, all right, dude.
Yeah. Well, that's why I started shaving my head, because it was more practical than carrying fans around me wherever I went. So I'm like, if I can't be windswept, then nothing.
So what is hanging from the curtains? Are they like sand dollars? They look like sand dollars. I couldn't see what they were.
I think they're his buttons, his campaign buttons.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, because then he's got like 20 stickers off to the left.
Yeah, the Oswald Cobblepot
reminding himself that he's running for mayor.
Yeah, that's the thing I had problems with. Like, I guess I can understand this all been on the outside, but like he knows he's running for mayor. Why does he need? There's like about 10 stickers right next to him. It's like it's not as if like you can, in case someone comes in, you can just hand that over to them. It's like that's probably stuck to the wall. So it's like
right.
You ain't getting that off.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna hurt your resale value when you try to sell this thing. It's got all these.
Yeah. Well, that and violently rocking the thing back and forth, probably destroying the undercarriage of it and stuff.
That and the evil.
Yeah.
But again, we see Oswald is bouncing all around, and we see it in the video. There's a shot, we see like the video from inside the Batmobile that is running surprisingly smoothly. Like the whole picture is not moving at all, but then in the little screen, Oswald's bouncing all over the place.
Oh, yeah, this is high end, high fiber optic connection he's got there. It's like no delay, no pixelation. He's just absolutely pristine.
And he's that good a driver, he can compensate for this thing jiggling all over the place. He's just riding with it. He's correcting anything it'll be doing. He's a perfect driver.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think I'm done for this minute, guys. If y'all are,
I'm good. Yep.
That sounded so weird in your accent. Saying y'all.
It did, and I don't live down south, so I don't say y'all.
But anyway, before we depart into the dark night, would both of you like to tell our listeners where they can get in touch with you or find any of your wonderful works or guest appearances?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tabitha T Rex, and sometimes I'm on there, and I'm in the listener group for this podcast. And you can also hear me guesting on Minute Impossible, where they talk about the Mission Impossible franchise. I was on guest on season 1, and my husband Jonathan and I are the guests on their new season 2, which should be out by the time this episode posts, and we're in the first 5 minutes of that. So check us out there.
Funnily enough, I was thinking about Jonathan and Chris from Minute Impossible, because they do a thing, Tech of the App, where they talk about the technology in each minute of their film, and this would be a great minute for them. There's so much wonderful tech going on in this minute.
Very true.
So you can find me there. I actually am a guest also on the Minute Impossible program, so you can find me there. You can find me here at Bat Minute and many others, and the place to go to find all that. I have a website, catandsean.org. My wife's name is Catherine, so it's a C-A-T, Cat, and Sean, SEAN.org. And from there, I link to my own podcasts, and I link to all my guest appearances on other podcasts as well. So if you go to catandsean.org, you'll find stuff. Stuff is there.
Well, do check all those out, especially if you want to hear them not lumbered with two hosts who are just completely off their rocker, like we are. And join us again on Wednesday. We'll be back for more Bat Minute returns. We'll have minute 86. And in the meantime, if you want to chat to us, then join in on the Bat Minute Listeners Cave on Facebook. That's always a lot of fun. But yes, we will see you on Wednesday.
Then put your little hand in mine. There ain't no hill or mountain we can't climb.
Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your bat booties, cause it's cold out there today. Just here to tell you to join us on Monday for minute 85 of That Minute Returns, where we'll have some new guests in Sean German and Tabitha Carlisle. And it's all over the front page. Batman's got road rage. Same Bat Pod, same Bat Minute.